experts in cricket. Nah, okay. Works for me. All right, well, let's get going. In Houston, I'm here Tuesday, 22nd of September. Great as always to have you along, everybody. So in a nutshell, From the Experts is a compressed virtual networking accelerator, helping people cross industries connect very quickly in a brief, moderated, interactive show format. So what's in it? Well, the FTE promise is if all goes well, your curiosity is sparked, new ideas come to light, and you may have helped the other person solve a problem or reach their opportunity faster. As we know, networking has never been more important for your business. So help me welcome our guest expert today, Mrs. Andrea Sittig Rolf. Some know her as Andrea the BlitzMaster. She is author of 7 Keys to Effective Business-to-Business Appointment Setting and founder and CEO of BlitzMasters. Over 25 years, she's been inspiring and empowering salespeople to be their very best. Andrea, so glad you made time to join us today. Please take it away.
Thanks, John. Hi, everybody. Now, I want you to picture it. Picture it, Seattle, 2002. I'm sitting at my desk, minding my own business, and my boss calls from Austin, Texas, and he said, "What is going on in the Northwest?" And I thought, oh no, I'm in trouble again. You know, what I do this time? I was always getting in trouble. And he said, no, he said, I'm looking at all the regions across the country. The Seattle Northwest area is on fire. What are you doing in terms of, you know, your sales activity? Because the numbers are just off the charts. And I said, well, I'm running these blitzes. I've got the reps on the phone. They're calling, they're setting appointments. We've got vendors involved. We're making it a fun, competitive day with prizes. And he said, well, keep up the good work. I can see the results in the bottom line. And when I hung up with him, I thought, why would I keep up the good work for this guy? This could be a business. I could do this full time. So much to the chagrin of my fiance, I called and said, hey, guess what? I quit my job today. I'm going to do this blitz thing full time. And he's like, you can't quit your job. We're getting married. We're buying a house. Are you out of your mind? And I said, no, this is a really good idea. I can feel it in my bones. This is an area where salespeople struggle. How do I get the appointment? How do I start that sales process? How do I get my foot in the door? And 18 years later, he's actually retired thanks to BlitzMasters, and we have a second home in Palm Springs. So it turned out to be a pretty good idea. So I'm so glad you all joined today. I'm going to share some information about prospecting in a pandemic. Things have been crazy the last 6 months or so, but you know, we still need to keep running our business. And so I thought I would talk a little bit about how sales and how prospecting has changed, and some of the tools and tactics and you know, advice, just very practical ideas and things you guys can do today. I mean, as soon as you hear me talk about this, you can apply it immediately and start to get some results. So basically what COVID-19 has been meaning to business and prospects, you know, we still really need to have that business continuity for remote work environments. That's a big concern for folks with people working from home. Security, of course, is top of mind, again, with folks working from home. How do you set all that up, make sure everything's secure? And prospects really need you now more than ever. They really need that support. And one of our clients, I thought, said it best, you know, we still need to do our jobs and our prospects need to do theirs. We need to keep business moving forward to the benefit of us all. And I love this quote from Albert Einstein. What is the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So what we have done in the past before COVID in terms of prospecting may not be effective now. So we can't keep doing the same thing. We've got to change our approach if we want to continue to have success. So we've been helping clients to accelerate pipeline, like I said, since 2002. These are some of the folks we've worked with. We do a lot in the IT space. We do quite a bit in telecom and sort of in the copier area as well, just helping those vendors and manufacturers build pipeline with their partners. So one of the mistakes that I see that salespeople do is, you know, they call to sell, and really you need to call to solve. So the idea when you are calling a new prospect is you want to have a value proposition about your products and services that talks about how you create a business outcome and how you solve a problem. And what a lot of salespeople do is they immediately do a pitch. You know, you've made that call, you've interrupted someone's day, they're right in the middle of something, and they start selling and pitching and talking about products. And that's the best way to get hung up on. So the idea is that you want to immediately talk about something that's going to solve a problem for them, and you do it in a way that creates a little bit of curiosity so that you can set up a future conversation when they do have time to do a deeper dive needs analysis. So that's what I'll be talking about. It's how do you get that first meeting? And in this environment, it's mainly phone appointments, although in some areas it's what we call mask to mask. But if you're not able to meet with folks in person, you can set up that future phone call or Zoom call to do a deeper dive. So these are the challenges that salespeople have. What they do is they tend to hide a little bit behind the impersonal touch, email, texting, social media. And frankly, I think they'd rather rearrange their sock drawer sometimes than pick up the phone. But we know a sale doesn't happen until a salesperson actually calls a decision maker. And there are companies out there that will actually set an appointment and hand that to the rep. But we sort of look at that as giving a man a fish and feeding him for a day. What we actually do is teach a man to fish and feed him for a lifetime. So we actually empower sales reps with the skills, tools, and confidence they need to set their own appointments, find their own business, and build their own pipeline so that the value isn't just that day. It goes far beyond that because now they have that skill set. So I'm going to share some of those skills that we teach today so you can get a feel for some of the skills, the techniques, and have some success. So what a lot of companies are finding now is they need to do sort of a redeployment of resources, and they may have field reps that are really great in the field, but they aren't comfortable using the phone. And they may be in a position now where they're having to kind of sharpen their skills in terms of phone and that outreach to prospects. And I thought I'd share some examples of one of our clients that's in the IT space and the difference between a value proposition when you're setting an appointment before COVID and then how that can change and be tweaked to now. So before COVID, this particular client may have said, we help companies build optimized storage solutions for the next generation data center. But now it's going to be received much better to change that just a little bit and say, we help companies build optimized storage solutions for business continuity. Because business continuity is a hot button right now with companies. Here's another example. We help companies build the most scalable and secure IT solutions for their environment. That's what you would say before COVID. Now, you would say we help companies build the most scalable and secure IT solutions for remote work environments, because remote work environments is what's the hot button here. So again, there's not a product that's mentioned anywhere in these statements, and that's the point. You're talking about the solution, how you solve a problem, and how you create a business outcome. There's curiosity so that the prospect will actually take the meeting. So this kind of puts it all together. And normally I wouldn't have a long statement like this on a PowerPoint, but you guys are going to get a copy of this. So I wanted it to be a nice leave behind, so you would still have this as kind of a guide to apply to your own business. So here's kind of what this sounds like when you put it all together to then set that appointment. Hi, this is Andrea calling. How are you with BlitzMasters? How are you holding up today? Things are changing by the minute, aren't they? That's exactly why I'm calling. We help companies build the most secure IT solutions for remote work environments. And we're talking to a lot of customers now who are dealing with the challenges of COVID-19. I'd like to schedule a phone appointment to learn more about your contingency plans and determine if there's an opportunity for us to help. How's Tuesday at 10:15? So, and you go right into asking for the appointment. I'll get into some of the details on that as well. So we call this the AHA formula when you are handling objections and getting appointments with those new prospects. And this just stands for anticipate the objection, handle the objection, and ask for the appointment. And you need to repeat this for up to 3 objections. A lot of times salespeople will hang up after that first objection. They'll just be like, okie dokie, hang up the phone. But we know that if you handle at least 1 objection, 50% of the time you'll get the appointment. If you can get past 2 objections, it goes up to about 65% of the time you'll get the appointment. And if you handle 3 objections, it goes up to 75%. So the idea is not to take that first no, if you will, handle the objection and then still ask for the appointment. So here's one of the common objections we're hearing now. We call it the COVID-19 objection. We're not doing anything right now because of COVID-19. And so the response that we're teaching that's working really well is, yes, unprecedented times we're living in. Now is actually the best time to talk so we can be of help during the process. Why don't we just set up a time to talk Tuesday at 10:15? Or how does Tuesday at 10:15 work for you? And one of the things we talk about too is when you're asking for an appointment, the more specific you are, the better. Tuesday at 10:15. This for a couple reasons. You want to let the prospect know that you're busy and this is what works for you. And now if they say, well, no, that doesn't work for me, the conversation is when you should meet, not if you should meet. And it's much better to just get to the point rather, well, you know, how's Tuesday or Thursday? I mean, just be really specific. How's Tuesday at 10:15? Oh, the other thing that salespeople are not very good at is getting voicemails returned. This is the favorite technique in our program. This is the one we hear about the most. The key is it needs to be short. It has to have a hook, and there's got to be curiosity. A lot of salespeople will do a sales pitch, and then that's why they're not getting called back. But if you make it short, have a hook, and make people curious, they're more likely to call back. So you might say, you know, hi. I might say, hi, this is Andrea calling from BlitzMasters. I'm calling about Dell. Will you please return my call? I'm not saying why I'm calling about Dell, just that I'm calling about Dell. That's the curiosity, that's the hook. And now when someone calls back, I can say, yeah, we've been working with Dell for several years. We help their direct teams and their channel partners build pipeline and grow the business. I think we can help you as well. How's Tuesday at 10:15? Now, the key though with this voicemail is you've got to remember what you said on the voicemail, because if you don't refer to it when the prospect calls back, they'll feel tricked. And you don't want them to feel tricked. So you just have to tell the story, why you dropped the name of that particular customer to get them to actually call back. So we're going to play a little game and we're going to practice some of this. And John is going to step in here a minute while I get this queued up.
Yeah, hey folks. So do you really buy into everything that Andrea just said? Do you have experience with it? Do you have questions about kind of what she's been doing to tailor this for the pandemic? I've got one here from Kevin. It's like, hey, what have you seen in terms of results? Compiling, calling. Sorry, I can't read that. It's too small for me. Can you see it, Andrea, from Kevin? Alone versus combining calling.
I can just say it.
Thanks.
Yeah,
What have you seen? What have you seen in terms of results comparing calling alone versus combining calling with other contact modalities?
Just clarify that a little bit.
In other words, I send an email and make a phone call in one touch.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So BlitzMasters and what we talk about is that this is just to be one piece of a broader strategy. We are not saying the only thing you should be doing is calling to set appointments. It's definitely part of the mix. You've got to be emailing, you've got to be doing social media, you've got to be calling. Because the thing is, you don't know how your prospect wants to receive the information. Some people like call, some people like email. So then you're sure to hit them in the area that they how they want to receive it. So yeah, it needs to be a part of a broader strategy. And so that's what a lot of our clients do is they'll have social media campaigns, they'll have email campaigns, and then BlitzMasters comes in and we're sort of that calling piece.
Great, thanks for that clarification.
Yeah.
I can chime in, John. One of the things that I've been seeing using LinkedIn as a tool is that everybody's using LinkedIn. You probably see, everybody's starting to get, hi, so-and-so, we're connected, or, we seem to be in the same network, let's connect. It's a very generic, impersonal type situation. So some of the messages that I'm doing are more personal, and the feedback is, are you trying to sell me something? Are you trying to hire me? Or do you have a job posting? Or what do you want? It's just very cut and dry because they're getting so bombarded with that type of information. So, it's backed up with phone calls, emails, if you can get the email, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and calling, it's funny, this used to be kind of the thing back in the day that people did, this idea of cold calling, but it's sort of become new again because so much of our world in business is digital transformation and everything's done digitally. So now calling is actually kind of new again. People aren't used to being calling. And we found during the pandemic, the talk times are longer. Folks are able to get right to decision makers because, the gatekeepers aren't there. Typically you're calling someone on their cell phone, or you're being routed to them directly because now companies have got their remote work force set up. So we've actually seen just slightly better results in terms of number of appointments during the pandemic than we did before.
Interesting.
So we've got one from Brian Skeels. He says, hey, cold calling approach is just the turn off for me, and reply, no interest. I go out and look on Google and let Google AI information figure out my interests as the hook. How can we leverage the AI approach? Totally agree with Brad's comments.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, gosh, that's great if you can do that, because then you're just whittling down and getting a really scrubbed, qualified list of who you're going to call, which just means you'll have that much more success. I mean, I agree. We still need to be doing all the digital stuff, but what we say is a sale doesn't happen until a salesperson talks to a decision maker. You still have to have the conversation, but as much of that info as you can get ahead of time to really qualify those names and those people, you'll have even more success on the phone than if it's totally blind. Yeah.
Does everybody still feel that way? Still need to make the sale in person?
Well, I mean, it's, people do business with people they know, right? So since March, I mean, thankfully I've been doing this for 20 years, so I've got some established relationships, but I'd feel sorry for a sales guy that's been in the industry for 1 or 2 years that, doesn't have those connections and trying to build relationships with people over the computer. And I mean, if you're a millennial, I mean, that's all great and wonderful, right? Dating, all that kind of stuff is all online. So building relationships, but dealing with an older generation, especially in the oil and gas side of the business, is very challenging, especially, trying to find somebody new, trying to build a relationship over, if we can get a Zoom call, we can get a Teams call, get a, whatever type of virtual, if you can get to that stage, it's a very lucky day. It's a backflip day.
Noah, you had talked about relationship based. I mean, how has that really changed? Can you explain more?
Well, I think that there's especially on the cold call piece, I mean, there's a sense of desperation that comes through on that right now, given where kind of everybody is right this second. And so, the cold call is very forced. It's, you're not really calling it's very much it feels like it's very much from a selfish perspective, as opposed to, really calling to talk to a client about problems that they're having.
So Andrea, how do you deal with that? I mean, don't you think that's true, or what's your thought on it?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, it all depends on your approach and what you're saying, which is where I go back to the value statement. It's a very good point. If you're talking about me, and our product's this and our product's that, well, then yeah, that does come across as selfish and a little desperate. But the value prop should be, we help companies, and then you describe an outcome that you create or a problem that you solve. And you do it in a way that sparks curiosity so that they're willing to take the next call. It's all about what's in it for them. You have to keep asking yourself, if this is my script, are they going to care? And what's in it for them versus what's in it for me, and how's this going to be good for me?
But one thing here, it's Morton, it's regarding the back to with Brad there, the trust. I think that's the key. In person, you talk with your whole body. Right. And it gives a much larger trust building faster than trying to do the email and all that. And especially the thing you mentioned up first with cybersecurity. If someone called me and saying, I'll help you with cybersecurity problem, what kind of problems do you have? I'm not going to tell a stranger on the phone what kind of problem I have about cybersecurity on the phone. And that makes that hard also on that one if you don't get the trust. The same thing also with the LinkedIn. What I've seen has worked with some people is that don't spend too much time writing when you connect with people, because then people feel they need to respond back to it at that point. You just connect and then give it some time and see if they are posting something. You have a reference point. Then hopefully if they share their phone number when they connect with the first degree connections, you have a phone number. And if you have initially in feedback from them or post or something they have posted, you can use that as the break-in to start the conversation or something like that, because then you're at the common ground. That's
excellent. Yeah. You can use that information when you call too. I think that's excellent.
And Kevin pitches in, hey, it's about creating that curiosity or intrigue, reason, why they should call you back and talk to you further. Mm-hmm. But something somebody brought up about the difference in age. Do you think millennials still connect the same way as older guys? Is this something you have to treat differently? Andrea?
Yeah, I mean, are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. With millennials, it's funny. The idea of picking up the phone and calling someone does seem a little foreign to millennials.
Oh, yes.
You have to, you have to. There's a lot of teaching, in that way. And then the thing you get with veterans is I'm all that in a bag of chips. I have nothing new to learn. How am I going to learn anything I don't already know? And so, we get it from both sides. We get all this skepticism, and I always laugh and say, we get such great reviews at the end of the program, and I always say maybe it's because people went in with low expectations. We didn't have to do much to impress them, but they come in very skeptical, and I just have to say, look, we've been doing this 18 years. We work with Fortune 100 companies. If it didn't work, we wouldn't keep getting hired by the companies. You just have to trust us and just try it, and then prove it to yourself that, hey, this actually does work if I just give it a shot.
Right.
Other comments?
I have two. One is timing is everything.
Amen.
I think what the combination of that with, to a certain extent, this is a numbers game, right? Like,
Yep.
don't make 100 calls, make 500, right? And that's where I think the process that you coach, the mindset that you're helping your salespeople develop is just as important as their success rate. Because sometimes, you could have a really provocative, intriguing, 30-second pitch, and, somebody saying we're all set might not be them being uninterested. It just may be not right now. So that to me is where I think other elements of your follow-up, et cetera, become really important. Sorry, that was more than two things.
Well, so you're focused on pipeline development, right, Andrea? You're very pinpoint focused on that part of the whole process.
Yeah, we're just the very beginning of the process. Our value proposition is we're going to get more at-bats for your salespeople. We're going to help open more doors. It's then up to the salespeople, to follow up, to present, to send the proposal, to do the close. We just focus on the very first part, which is we're going to help you get in the door. Because to your point, it's a numbers game. So the more doors that are open, the more people you get in front of, the more sales you're going to have. But we also handle the other piece of that, which is improving the skill set. So if you add to doing the numbers, you add a skill of handling objections, getting past gatekeepers, getting voicemail returned. If suddenly you're better at all of those things and you do the numbers, then you really see a big uptick in your success.
Okay, so Andrea, when thinking about prospecting in a pandemic, I know you talked about several things, but is there something that comes to your mind, or a particular instance that really helped turn the corner in y'all's learning on how to help others? That comes to your mind? Do you have a particular client or instance that happened, situation?
Well, I mean, the thing that happened when the pandemic hit for BlitzMasters, I wasn't sure what that was going to mean for us. I'm a small business, and I thought, oh, what's that going to mean for us? I didn't know if it'd be good or bad. And next thing you know, my phone's blowing up, my email's filling up, because we've been running these virtual Blitz workshops for 10 years. I've had the business for 18, but we've been doing virtual programs for 10. So we were already in that position. So what happened was a lot of folks that had money set aside for on-site events came to BlitzMasters and said, we want to do these virtual blitzes. We still have to build a pipeline. We've got to find new business. We've got to generate leads. So they sort of came to us for help. And then the other piece was, how do we now change our value proposition? And we had a bunch of blitzes lined up right when this hit. And I had to call customers and say, okay, we can't talk about, the thing you wanted to talk about before this, we can't talk about. We have to change the way we talk about it, because this whole pandemic thing, back in February, March, it was just top of mind with everybody. We have to completely change the way we talk about your solutions. We can still talk about your solution, but we need to do it in a way now that helps people with this whole contingency plan of what do we do now.
Okay, good. So anybody have a particular instance that they'd like to bring up to the BlitzMaster and see if you can trip her or get her help?
Yeah, one thing I've seen also is like it's opening the market, because since there's limitation on people visiting, suddenly it's not about how many miles around where you're located. Suddenly all of US is quickly your market. compared to before, because everyone is struggling with meeting up on that part. So it gives at least a bigger market to go after than before.
That's a really good point. Yeah, and absolutely it does. You're working from home, you're doing Zoom, you can be anywhere in the world and conduct business.
Yeah, so that authenticity and connection is even more important. So
I think the other side is that we all have, I mean, like we have through this, we've all got the same issue, right? Like everyone on this call may have separate issues going on at home or family and animals dying or, you know, I mean, all that kind of stuff. But COVID is the one thing that has brought everybody together. And that's where I've found just that conversation has been a good opener. Like, how are you doing? You know, how's your family doing and stuff like that. And we're a more personal conversation versus just that immediate pitch into what's going on and all that kind of stuff, because we're all suffering equally.
Right.
You know?
Okay, well, I'm going to close off the spotlight on that. And like we do every show, we ask our expert for their ask and give. So your ask of the audience, Andrea, what is it that they can help you with or do for you?
Well, I mean, you know, it's funny, when I started the company, it was really designed to help any industry, anybody in sales that has to kind of get their foot in the door. And I started doing this with HP back in 2005 and got into the channel, this IT channel, which was awesome. And so now 99% of our business is in the IT space. But, you know, these techniques that we teach are evergreen. They work for anybody. It's just, you know, how do I get the appointment? How do I get my foot in the door, no matter what the industry is? So I would love to break into some new industries since this really applies to anything. Great.
So you're willing to take calls from other people who are interested?
Yes.
Got
right.
it. And what about your give to the FTE audience on the call today? Is there something that you can offer?
Well, did you want to do this little exercise that we talked about? I'm obviously, I'll leave the PowerPoint with everybody, which are some of the techniques that we actually teach during the Blitz. I want everybody to have those scripts and, you know, some voicemail scripts and some opening scripts to really help them set appointments and start that sales process.
No, that's excellent. Let's hit that right after a word from our sponsor. Hey, is becoming an FTE sponsor right for your business? A compressed virtual networking accelerator, FTE connects new people and new business. It's a smart, strategic, timely tool that complements and enhances what you already have in your toolbox. Could it be good business for you? Let's talk. So now on to the leads and needs portion. As you guys remember, more trust in the group equals stronger, richer networking. And everything we experiment with on this part of the show is all about building confidence and trust with each other to connect and to get to the opportunity even faster. So just like Andrea said, her expertise is right in the heart of leads and needs. So her give today will be this mini Blitz and her Blitz response tool. So we thought that might be useful for the group on the call today. So Andrea, back over to you. How do we do this? How do we set this up?
So I'm going to be the salesperson, John. You'll be the decision maker. And I'm going to ask you for the appointment. And I want you to give me a couple of objections that you see here on the perimeter of the screen. And you'll notice that as I click on them, it's going to give the response to handle the objection. And just a little bit of info about this tool. I had this created out of something called mind mapping. It just means that our brain associates the color with the objection. And over time, we start memorizing the objection and the corresponding response. So we don't even know what's happening. It's just how our brains work. And these are not objections to a particular product or solution. They're objections to an appointment. And so that's why these responses are formulas that have been created to handle the objection and still get that appointment. And then at the bottom of the screen, you'll see these different voicemail scripts on how to leave a voicemail that actually gets returned. But for our purposes, for this exercise, I thought I would be the salesperson. I'll ask you for an appointment. You'll give me a couple of objections and no more than 2, John. You ready?
Sure.
Hey, John, this is Andrea calling from BlitzMasters. We help companies build pipeline with their salespeople to help generate new business and develop leads. And the reason for my call today is to set up a phone appointment to learn a little bit more about your business and see how we could help. How's Tuesday at 10:15?
Oh, hey, Andrea. I appreciate your call. You know, we really already have, and we're really happy with the marketing setup that we have today. So, you know, nice to meet you, but it's we're not in the market for that right now.
Well, you just gave me 2 right in a row. So we're happy with what we have, which is right here. So you've got several different options. You know, that's great. Who are you using now? Well, that's perfect. We can complement what you're already doing. And then you said, you know, we're not in the market, you know, and this is sort of like the COVID response. We're not doing anything right now. It's kind of the same thing. Now is actually the best time to meet before you're in the market. So you can take the time to learn about the best solution for your company, and I can determine the best solution based on your needs. Why don't we just get together? You know, why don't we just talk on the phone Tuesday at 10:15? And the idea with this is at the end of each objection, you continue to ask for the appointment. You don't even come up for air. You keep asking for the appointment as you're handling the objections.
Want to try it again? I naturally, I guess I did too, because that was my natural response.
You just really didn't want to have an appointment with me, apparently.
Giving her the Heisman.
I love it.
John, let me try one here, because this is where I always, is that like with my company, Technique FMC, cold calls, don't even know what Technique FMC does. So I get annoyed by the fact that they didn't even do the homework as to what my company does. They just say, hey, I've got IT, you're a great technology guy, so I'm going to cold call. That turns me off in a New York minute.
Yeah.
That they have no idea what our company does. How does your program in dealing with the objections say, dude, you didn't know what this company did? So how are you going to even get your foot in the door when you don't even know what it is that they need or want, because of you're offering something that is like totally out of their pitch. And I get this all the time.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. And I don't know who it was that mentioned it earlier, but I thought that it was brilliant to do kind of that research on LinkedIn ahead of time for the prospects that you're following, so that you can learn about them. You can see their recent posts. You can see what their hot buttons are. And then you tailor your pitch to something you know that is important to them, that you had, shows that you've done your research. That's part of the program that we talk about to the reps when you're getting your lists ready. Make sure that you've done that due diligence ahead of time.
Brian, you can offer to Google your company for them and provide them with the answer. That's one I like to do.
Yeah, no, in fact, I do. And to the LinkedIn comment, yes, I get that. They usually find my name and say, ooh, you know, here's a guy. And then, they don't look at the company, and they don't look at what I really do. Or as John's smiling because he knows I'm kind of off there in the outer space aspect of things in a way anyway. And so it's like, dude, you're just, you know, you're wasting time. So I don't even think that, I think researching LinkedIn is very good, but yes, I would think that a company, as their research, would Google the company before, not just LinkedIn check, but a Google check of the company, right, so that they know what it is that we do. Because 9 out of 10 cold calls for me, they have zero understanding of what we do. Zero.
I would love to hear
absolutely amazed.
Right. I would love to hear the 1 out of 10 that works with you.
So Brian, in all your years at studying in Rhode Island and Cornell, where did you learn the most benefit now working at Technique for your different riser systems? You got to spin it somehow, right?
Yeah, no, well, it was by way of Exxon. So I was recruited from Rhode Island to work offshore for Exxon, and then wound up with FMC and so forth. So as John knows, I've done a ton of subsea work, pipeline work, ROVs, stuff. So it's basically stuff that most people have absolutely no clue as to what I do.
Brian,
Yes,
Andy asked a very good question. Which 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 10 call works for you?
It's almost 1 in 1,000. I usually have to reach out the other way. Cold calls to me usually have very zero, if any, input to me at all. If they want to get in to see me, it's usually at a conference. It's usually at a booth or something where I'm curious about what it is they offer.
Right.
John will tell you, OTC, I've got such a reputation that most of my competitors won't even let me stand on get into their booth because they think I'm going to steal all their ideas just from looking at it. So they keep me out in the aisleway.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Andy, would you be able to share answers here? And I'm curious to learn answers here. There's some very good tabs here. Could you provide answers to these things?
Yeah, absolutely. So these are, let's say you're at the point, you've asked for the appointment. Somebody says, well, it's not in our budget right now. In that case, now is the perfect time to meet. We found it very beneficial to discuss future needs and our solution early so that we can help during your decision-making process. Why don't we get together? Why don't we have a call? Somebody says, we once had a bad experience with your company. Gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. We've changed since then. That's exactly why we should talk. How's Tuesday at 10:15? I'm too busy. Okay, I won't keep you. What I'd like to do is set up a time to talk at a later time that's more convenient. How's Tuesday at 10:15? So you see that I keep going back to how's Tuesday at 10:15. You keep asking for the appointment. And to Brian's point a minute ago, I'm so glad he brought it up because he was sharing that, the way that he likes to be approached is at conferences, or that he likes to be more proactive when he's at conferences. And to Kevin's point earlier about how does this fit in with email and social and digital and all of that, we can throw conferences into the mix. And that's why I was saying earlier that the calling should just be one piece. You still have to do all the other stuff because you don't know how your prospect wants to receive hearing from you. And so that's why you've got to do a little of everything because everybody's different. So.
And you got to know who you're calling.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's what I just looked at, his LinkedIn and started a conversation with him. Right. So, you've got to know who you're calling. You've got to put that up front. Just blind calling is never going to get you anywhere. You're going to go through all of these buttons before you get that Tuesday at 10:15 meeting.
But it's also knowing where to look, and one good place if it's a big public company is the investor section on the website, and what the management telling investors on that one, especially if you're hitting an executive level, a high level on it, because then it's more how can you help your CEO you achieve this, and you reference to something specific around that one, because it's always written there very precise, because it goes to analysts and others who doesn't spend too much time digging into everything all the time. So it's a good, I would say that any investor reports or quarterly reports, it's a good place to start if you're trying to sell.
That's a great idea.
For sure.
Any other closing comments for Andrea or this part of the conversation?
Andrea, how do you handle a very broad offer? I'm a consultant. I've helped clients solve just tons of problems. One idea that comes to mind is that I research on LinkedIn. I find the guys at the downstream inventory management level. I happen to be working on a big project right now in the hydrocarbon inventory management space. I might say, hi Fred. I'm calling with so-and-so. I'm currently working on a big hydrocarbon inventory management project for a client. Is this something you're working on, or Tuesday at 10 o'clock or whatever? That's one of the things you're thinking about as far as getting pretty precise with a broad offer?
Yes, I'm violently nodding my head because that's exactly what that's a great approach where you share a story of how you've helped another company.
Good.
It's really good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, anybody else? Or are there any other needs from the group? Andrea?
Purchase orders.
Andrea, go ahead.
Oh, I was just queuing up the next. I'm just queuing up the next slide. You tell me when I just have a couple more slides with a couple more ideas before I'm done with my piece.
We're almost done, so go for it.
Okay, I'll talk fast. So just some ideas, you guys, on how to make prospecting a habit. Make a calls for an hour or set 2 appointments, whichever comes first. So you come in the office, if you got your 2 appointments in 10 minutes, you're done, move on, do something else. If you've called for an hour, you haven't set any appointments, you're done. But we found that if you make an hour of calls or set 2 appointments every day, it'll be 10 meetings a week, that habit. Make 10 to 20 dials before checking email. You know, we come in, we check email, now we're responding instead of being proactive in our day. Pick a teammate, trade prospect lists, and call for an hour on a Friday afternoon. Sometimes the reason people don't have success with certain prospects, it's a personality thing. So if you switch the lists with a teammate, sometimes your teammate, you can just mix it up a little bit. Just have that different personality calling on the same list you've been working on. And then call a lead 6 times to increase success, or reach out. Doesn't have to be just calling, like we said, email, LinkedIn, those different ways. Quick takeaways, no selling. Focus on just setting the appointment. That's the whole purpose of these calls. It's just to book a meeting. It's not to sell anything. You have 15 seconds to make an impression. Keep it short and professional. Handle objections with confidence. People associate confidence with competence, and people like to work with competent people. And then leave that 8-second voicemail. We teach the 8-second voicemail, and it's just dropping a name of a current customer, dropping the name of a referral, dropping the name of someone who used to work at your company. You're not selling on voicemail. You're just trying to create that curiosity so that the prospect will actually return the call. And here's me. This is my contact info. If anybody wants additional info, John, I assume you'll share the deck or the recording with folks so that they have the info. And I can share a PDF if that's helpful.
Yeah, that's great. So Andrea, once again, thank you very much for sharing your expertise and the engaging conversation that we had around this important topic. So I will send this along with the contact list from everybody that joined the show today, and you guys can continue networking as you see fit after the show. Speaking of shows, our next show is on Tuesday, October 6th, when we will meet Ashley Kalinauskas. She's founder and CEO of Torgen Pharmaceuticals, a biotech company focused on providing immuno-oncology to the veterinarian market. That's new personalized cancer treatment for companion animals like your pets. Great story. You don't want to miss it, October 6th. Well, we're out of time. How are we doing at From the Experts? I'm going to send a 3-question survey and today's participant list, as I told you, and we want your feedback. We need to improve. Can only do that when we hear from you. Grateful to spend the time with you today. Please stay connected and expect that this was the best 45 minutes of your day. That's it, folks. See you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great one.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
You know, one of the things, Andrea, that we'll do in the future is we'll use the breakout room feature. So when the group continues to expand like that, we'll be able to have folks that want to go into a particular session, like maybe the Blitz response tool or something like that. I like that. I think
that's a neat idea.
Yeah, I think it could be productive. And we could set it up that way in advance and have that as the leads and needs portion. You can have a breakout focused on prospecting or a breakout based on some other strategic thing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
But thanks again. I really loved spending the time with you and enjoyed finding out, how you're doing. And obviously the BlitzMaster stuff is cool and helpful. So send the PDF to me and I'll make sure and include it in the handouts to everybody.
Okay. Thanks. Appreciate the opportunity. Have a good one.
You too.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.